Hi, it's so nice to see you all tonight. My name is Kevin Newbury, and I'm the director of Fellow Travelers and one of the co-founders of Up Until Now Collective.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jecca. I am the producer of Fellow Travelers and one of the co-founders of Up Until Now Collective. Now, we're just very curious as a starting place, as we can do this. How many of you have seen the opera Fellow Travelers? Oh, great.
A few of you, yeah.
Oh, I love how many people are going to have that experience.
Wonderful. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years, almost 10 years since we premiered Fellow Travelers at Cincinnati Opera, and we're so excited to tell you more about our plans for the 10th anniversary tour, but we're going to start out with some music. So Fellow Travelers, it is the fall of 1953, the height of McCarthyism, and young college graduate Timothy Laughlin has recently moved to Washington, D.C., to fight the good fight against communism, and a chance encounter in DuPont Circle with the handsome State Department employee Hawkins Fuller leads to an adventure that will change both of their lives. The scene that you're about to see is scene 4 in the first act of Fellow Travelers. We're in Timothy's bedroom, and Hawk has just arrived for a surprise visit. Thank you so much.
What's for dinner? Chicken soup. There's probably enough for two. Oh, telephone. I don't even have a lease. How about I buy you? There's probably enough for two. Something better than soup. How about a steak? You bought me a book, but that was the thank you, that was the thank you. Where will it end? That was the thank you for. Where will it end? Where will it end? Thanks, but I've got some work to do. All right then, we'll stay. Make yourself at home. All right, we'll stay. Make yourself at home. Where will it end? Where will it end? Right, we'll stay. Where will it end? Hiya, friends. Tip-top news from the hill. A girl back home. My it's the her. It's just the two of us. And I have plenty of cousins. shells at the end of the day, as far away as it sounds. Bermuda, as far away as it sounds, as far away as it sounds, Bermuda. Under the sheets in a tropical storm. Under the sheets in a tropical storm. You. The rain. Finding its way through the gaps in the straw of a roof onto your chest. Two little drops. Two little drops. Paradise.
Well, hello, everybody. Come in and take a seat if you're running a little bit late. Please come and join us.
So I think the place to start, Kevin, is with you and how fellow travelers, how you learned about fellow travelers, where it comes
Yes.
from.
My pleasure. So in the house tonight, I believe we have novelist Thomas Mallon somewhere here. Tom, wave your hand. We'll see you after. And composer Gregory Spears is here as well, and you can meet Greg after. Thank you. And our librettist Greg Pierce couldn't be with us tonight, but he sends his love to everybody. So my dear friend Sterling Zinsmeyer, who is a producer, I've known Sterling for, gosh, almost 25 years. And right after Tom's book came out, he sent it to me and said, Kevin, this must be an opera, and you need to direct it. And I tore through Tom's book in a day, and I fell in love with the story and these characters, and we set right to work to turn it into an opera. And at the time, we actually didn't have a company on board to produce it, so Sterling commissioned it. We brought on the brilliant team of Gregory Spears and Greg Pierce, the Gregs, as I call them, and we got right to work. And we were invited to be a part of Cincinnati Opera and CCM's Opera Fusion program that had just started to do a workshop. So we had a workshop of fellow travelers, and by the end of that workshop, Joseph Lattanzi was actually part of that very original workshop who you just heard sing Hawk, also sang the premiere. And Cincinnati Opera agreed to produce the premiere. And, you know, Cincinnati might not seem like the most likely place for a super queer opera to premiere. I wrote my senior thesis in high school on Robert Mapplethorpe and obscenity law and the NEA, and here we are, right? I guess the rest is history. We actually opened 6 days after the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. And as you may know, they just paved over that memorial in Orlando, Florida. So it means so much to be here sharing this opera with you at this moment.
So since then, the opera has toured quite extensively. And then in the summer of 2020, Kevin and I was previously the executive director of Beth Morrison Projects for 10 years and a co-director of the Prototype Festival, where we gave the New York premiere of Fellow Travelers in 2017. And so Kevin and I have worked together for ages, more than a decade, on many projects. And in the summer of 2020, we made a short film together in the woods of New Hampshire, in a place called Freedom, New Hampshire, which is where Kevin's parents have this incredible property. And we brought a bunch of folks together and made a short film, which was called Up Until Now. And, this was like height of COVID. We were all, distanced and all this stuff. And so we would spend all our time outside and sitting around the campfire and talked a lot about the challenges of trying to change institutions and the work that we were so excited about doing. And then we decided that maybe we should just start our own company. Up Until Now was founded in the summer of 2020. And one of the first things that Kevin said to me was, I really want to do a 10th anniversary national tour of Fellow Travelers. So you want to talk a little bit about?
Yes, absolutely. And a shout out to Brandon Kazan-Maddox, who is the third co-founder of Up Until Now. And yes, thank you, Brandon. We've had a very exciting first few years, working in film and television and stage. And, and Jecca is the guru of touring theater. Not only the opera music theater that Jecca developed with the amazing Beth Morrison and the Prototype Festival, Kim Whitener here with us tonight as well. And Kristen Martin. The other two of the co-founders of Prototype are also here. We'll be recognizing a lot of you in the audience tonight. It's like a family tonight. And we were really interested in trying to look at a theater touring model. Like, how do we build a production that can travel easily with largely the same cast? And there was industry-wide consensus that Fellow Travelers was the right model for this. So the piece has been widely recognized, had a lot of success. It fits into, as we say in show business, one truck, so it travels really easily. And we started calling every company that we knew, you'll meet a few of them in just a moment, to talk about how we could build something that could travel all around the country for the 10th anniversary.
Yeah, and to get a little bit into the weeds, so as Kevin said, I worked with BMP, and we did a lot of touring of operas and commissioning and development of new opera, and then I also have this whole other company and whole other side hustle, as a theater producer. And I tour both small and large-scale theater works all over the world. And what I was finding is that there is just such a price differential between the cost of touring theater and the cost of touring opera. And it's because in the opera world, for one thing, every time you go and do an opera, generally speaking, it's a new cast, which means a whole new rehearsal process and all new costumes. There's just so much that goes into it. And then also because there is this financial model which is based on what we call per performance, so that everybody, the singers, performers get paid on a per performance basis. And that is not the way it works in theater. The way it works in theater is that you would go and do a theater tour, and we would take 3 days to load in, and then you would maybe do 3 or 4 performances over the course of a long weekend, and everybody is paid on a weekly fee. And so it was really, how do we bring some of that theater touring model to the opera world? And so Kevin really was like spearheading all of these, reaching out to so many companies around the country and saying, we think we can figure out how to do this. And Seattle Opera signed on as sort of our first launch partner for the tour. And they've been an incredible partner with us to, they're hosting a whole rehearsal process. And then that one cast, we've double cast the leads, but other than that, it's a single cast, is going to every other company. And so then that means means that that cast does not have to go back into rehearsal each time, right? So instead of saying, you know, your commitment to this is going to be 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, your actual commitment is going to be 1 or 2 weeks. And so instead of paying you per performance, we're going to say we're going to pay you well for a week or 2 weeks. And that just drastically cuts the costs of for each company. And then up until now, we've taken on the sort of upfront costs. We're rebuilding the set, we're building all new costumes, you know, so we're doing that work up front to try and, you know, alleviate a lot of the pressures that are on each individual company. And, you know, it's been really incredible being able to bring all of these different companies on board and to have them trust us, you know, and we've obviously been in conversation with them about casting and you know, the way it's going to work, but they've placed so much trust in us, which is really extraordinary. And now it looks like we're going to be going to somewhere around 10 or 12 companies over the course of 2 years around the country.
Including some really exciting collaborations with regional theater companies and opera companies, and you know, opera companies and venues outside of their main houses, which we'll hear a bit more about. Before we invite our other distinguished panelists up here, for those of you that don't know very much about the Lavender Scare, I just wanted to very briefly read this to you. So April 27th, 1953, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signs Executive Order, we know a lot about those these days, Executive Order 10450, identifying sexual perversion as a national security threat and prohibiting LGBTQ plus people from government service. This massive government purge, known as the Lavender Scare, unleashed a targeted and relentless investigation and persecution of queer Americans in government jobs. What began in the Department of State increased in scope and scale well beyond the 50s across all branches of government, including the armed services, into the 1990s and sadly continuing today with this current administration. So that's a little bit of backdrop, a little background. Fellow Travelers is first and foremost a love story, but it's important to have a bit of knowledge of the underpinnings of that. Should we bring up our other panelists?
Yeah, let's.
All right. So joining us, David Bennett from San Diego Opera, Sue Dixon from Portland Opera, and Rob Ainsley from the Glimmerglass Festival. Come on up.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I think maybe the place to start is, I'm curious for each of you, what are the challenges right now? Like, what's the biggest challenge that I'm sorry, big question to start with, that you're seeing in the industry, and what does collaboration and this type of model of being able to join a consortium, how does doing something like this help each of your companies?
I'll jump in. So opera is incredibly expensive. We all know that. So that's the big challenge is we're raising more money. That's all great. We're all working very hard to do that. But the cost of producing opera is really outpacing our ability to raise money to support opera. And that is true for every company, from the Met down to the smallest companies. So finding ways to save money in production of opera is huge, and there's lots of conversations that are happening around the country. How do we actually work together? But it's hard for us when we're entrenched in our own companies to find ways to be creative, to produce like you're doing. So this collective is so important to us.
Yeah, I would just agree with David. Right now, we're just at an inflection point for pretty much all opera companies. And when I'm working in Portland, the biggest challenge for us is philanthropy has just gone down while costs just keep on escalating. And we have 3 collective bargaining unions. So for the unions, it keeps on escalating wages, and so the wages cannot keep up with philanthropy. We also don't own our venue, and the venue costs have gone up close to 67%. And so it becomes untenable for us to actually produce opera. So we're looking at much more creative ways to produce, looking at ways that we can go off-site, look at more co-productions, more co-commissions, and this is a model that really speaks to me. We are presenters of Broadway, and I've always been intrigued by this touring model and wondering how come it doesn't work for opera, and Kevin and Jecca are making it happen for us, so I'm really appreciative of that.
Yeah, I would say, you know, I don't think I'm an outlier, but I am sort of in a more rural part of the world. I'm also running a festival. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we've had in upstate New York is getting audiences to come back. We don't have that kind of ready, highly cultured kind of clientele who come in on a whim on a night of the week. We really have to work to get people to come to our destination. But, I mean, without going into the woes of trying to make an opera budget balance, and none of them do, we've been looking at many ways to kind of collaborate, and we're known as kind of an originator of productions, and it's unusual for us to kind of bring productions in. And I think that's something that I've, first of all, been forced to do more of, but I've also wanted to do more of. And we're trying this model, this kind of national touring model, on a smaller scale in the same season. And we're doing a sort of statewide tour as well, which hopefully will come to New York as well in November. But we're going right around the state on a smaller scale with a small touring production of a Kurt Weill piece called Happy End. And we're collaborating with Opera Saratoga and hopefully Finger Lakes Opera to make that happen. So it happens in Italy all of the time, this model, whereas you'll have a small kind of local region with a bunch of smaller local houses, and they build one production, and then it goes to all of the houses, and it makes perfect sense. Now, there are idiosyncrasies for us in terms of how we cast, but, you know, it's a viable model, and we just haven't worked out how to make it work yet.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things that we've found is that we sort of have like a starting place in terms of our budgeting and planning, and then with each company, it becomes a very individualized conversation with them about their AGMA agreements, right? And like how it's gonna work. And with Rob, like you are a festival, you have young artists, right? So the casting is very different at Glimmerglass than it is elsewhere. And I think one of the things that has made this possible is that, again, because we are not, up until now, like we're this small company trying to do this big thing, and I think I've learned over the years that you just have to be flexible, and a conversation with a company, it's how do we make this work together? And it's not about us dictating or them dictating. It's like, what's the conversation and how do we make it work? And so each company, it's like slightly different, right? With Glimmerglass, it's like quite far more different, but it still works within this model. And hopefully, one of the things we're really hopeful for is that then we get national attention, right? That we're getting the national press, that everybody, like all boats rise together, and we're able to, start a national conversation around this piece, the beauty of this piece, the art of this piece, and the politics of this piece.
And our goal is to bring this piece to as many companies as possible that have not done it yet here. There's been 15 productions so far, 25,000 tickets sold around the country. And our goal is to bring it everywhere, not only around America, but around the world. And sometimes the schedule conflicts a little bit, so we're doing a full process at Glimmerglass. I'm leaving for a week to put the show in San Diego. So we're delighted that it's playing at 2 places at the same time. So we'll talk more about our process and what we're cooking up, but let's hear a little bit more music. So our next selection is the Aria, Last Night, sung by Timothy. And this happens immediately following the very beautiful love scene that you just saw. And one of the things that the amazing Thomas Mallon said to us when we first called him and asked if we could have a crack at turning his beautiful novel into an opera, he said, yes, and I encourage you to, take whatever approach you want. You have my blessing. But the one thing he said that really meant a lot to us and stayed with us was, please take Tim's faith seriously in the piece, and that was something that meant a lot to us too as creators. And so this is a little glimpse into Tim's faith. This is Last Night. Thank you.
Last night, how many kisses in his hands, how many hours, how warm, how strong his hands. I died last night, how many hours, last night, how many kisses. I died last night, how many whispers, how did he know that I am his? How many sins did I commit last night? How many more nights in his arms? How many more mornings? How many whispers? How many sins last night? How soon can I see him again? How many more nights last night? Forgive me, Holy Father. Forgive me, Holy Father. I've been told over and over that more to sin kills the life of grace in our souls. Is it true? Is it true? I confess that we, last night, his arms, iron bars across my chest, so close, so happy. How many hours, I confess. It's a great big world, he said, it's a great big world. But it wasn't last night. Thank God, it was only us. It was only right. It was right last night. Father, the quiet is one, what was sin, what was more destruction. Then how many earthquakes, last night? How many kisses last night? How tender, how many whispers last night? Last night, I died last night. How many earthquakes, how many kisses last night? How many I died. Thank you, Holy Father, for sending him. Last night, I died
Thank you, Andy and Mila. So we're going to segue to talking a bit about community engagement. And one of the big tent poles of this particular tour is something we're calling the Lavender Names Project.
Because just building a national tour of fellow travelers wasn't enough.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Yes, we're very ambitious. And look, I often say that this is the right piece for the whatever time this is, because we wouldn't call this the right time, but this moment that we're living in, this piece is the piece that I think we need the most, or certainly among them. So the Lavender Names Project is our collaboration with the extraordinary New American LGBTQ+ Museum. Ben Garcia, the executive director of the museum, is here tonight as well, so you can meet him after in the reception. And this collaboration is very meaningful because this opera is about a time period that was all about keeping records on people. That some say like 5,000 men and women lost their jobs during the Lavender Scare alone. And those names and photos have never been released. They've been destroyed or hidden away. And in the very end of the opera, we reveal photos of men and women that have actually lost their jobs. And so the Lavender Names Project, lost their jobs for being queer, is our grassroots nationwide research project that aims to collect as many names and photos voluntarily of people that lost their jobs from the Lavender Scare through Don't Ask, Don't Tell through right now. And those photos and stories will end up at the LGBTQ+ American Museum at the end of the tour. The museum is opening adjacent to New York Historical, and I encourage you to learn everything about what they're doing because we need them more than ever right at this moment too. In case you haven't noticed, our government is systematically trying to erase our history across the country. So this is a very meaningful aspect of the show for us. And please spread the word if you know anyone that who's maybe their grandfather lived through this time and lost their job, or maybe you know somebody who was forced out of the government or the armed services. So that's the Lavender Names Project, and that's a big part of what we're embarking on. And I'm curious for our distinguished panel here, like how you're thinking about community outreach in your work in general, but particularly with this opera for our community during this moment.
Well, community is part of our DNA and in Portland. I'm so fortunate that I'm in a liberal city, and Portlanders show up all the time, and we show up for our community as well. So we have partnered with the Cascades AIDS Project. We are partnering with the Q Center. We've got 3 other local queer foundations, and 3/4 of my staff is queer. I also have a daughter who is queer. And so this project is really personal. Community engagement is really personal, but it's more about not just engagement, but how do you show up for your community? And what is the responsibility of an opera company to its community?
So Kevin directed a musical, fabulous musical in San Diego 2 years ago, 86th. With Diversionary Theater, which is the 3rd oldest LGBTQ theater in the country, very strong presence in San Diego. And in the same building is housed the Lambda Archives, which is the archives of queer people in really Southern California. It's Orange County into San Diego and actually into the desert, so near Palm Springs. So that's a very important presence. So I think the Lavender Project, aligning with the Lambda Archives in San Diego, is going to be a huge opportunity for us. But you know, this story tells a story that is about people's lives that live today. So there's an immediacy that's told in the story, and that's what I'm really looking forward to, is being able to have people in our community in Southern California, and we're getting to before LA, which I'm very excited. It is going to LA, but it'll be in San Diego first. But having them see themselves, that's what's so important in what we try to do now, is how do we provide opportunities on the operatic stage for our community, our diverse communities, to see themselves in our work?
And just a side note that Andy Acosta, our Timmy, is on the board of Diversionary Theater.
He is, and he's a resident of San Diego, and we are so lucky to have him. I noticed at the end of his aria, you could have heard a pin drop. I mean, it's such beautiful writing, and he sings it so beautifully.
He sure does. I hate to be the difficult child, but my festival is based in a town of 2,000 people in rural upstate New York, so it doesn't exactly have a banging gay scene. But I'm holding it up here. That said, it is a really progressive and very supportive town. But during the festival itself, I'm running a village of 400 people. And many of them are young people who are looking at this first professional experience in their lives as really formative, and they are looking at the company that is employing them and looking to them to show how to do it in a mindful way that fits into the world that they want to live in. So it is a really important part of our mission and the stories that we tell. And our community, certainly on an audience kind of supporter basis, is national. But when we're there in the summer, it's very much centered in the young people whose lives we are kind of forming. And they are, we always have a float in the July 4th parade. It is the home of 4th of July, and it is very much a colorful float. And we are, we happily fly our pride flags for the month of June, and they take part in the Albany Pride. There's a real contingent that goes out. So it will be very meaningful to them, and that was where we will start our work. But there are things like the Otsego Pride Alliance that we will try and partner with in the ways that we can. But yeah, to see that stories that represent yourself and that you are living in an environment where you feel free to be who you are, that is crucial. And it is something that we can do safely for 3 months, where hopefully people don't feel threatened or minimized.
I think this is a defining moment for all of us. Right now, we do have an administration that is stripping away rights of individuals, taking names, looking at social media, and there's a fear factor happening. So bringing a piece like this actually helps tell a story. Opera has this profound factor in order to tell stories that sometimes feel very difficult, and to tell a story that people can actually see themselves, feel seen, feel heard, feel respected, feel dignity is really, really important this time of our lives.
We're also living in a post-truth world. And the beautiful thing about music as an art form is that, I mean, you can misuse it, but it speaks truthfully in a way that rational argument isn't doing at the moment. And by putting this heartbreaking love story in front of people, you can't help but to be won over by the very genuine emotions it represents. And so in terms of this story kind of showing empathy and bringing a community together, it couldn't be more mission-centric, and especially in this time.
That's what I was going to say, too, was that, if for those of you who have not seen it, it's a very beautiful love story. So I think that's what really drives it home. So we're in this moment where we feel lost and highly political. And so for people that may be nervous, or you may be in a community where you don't have a banging gay scene, this opera shows a gay relationship that is, for the most part, very beautiful. And so it shows love in a very beautiful way. And I actually think Gregory, as a composer, sets the mood of love in the writing in a very, very beautiful way.
I mean, even those, we call them like the love chords, when Tim and Hawk first kiss, you hear a version of that in the opening scene. And I do just want to shout out to Gregory Spears and Greg Pierce for their incredible craftsmanship with this opera. It has so much heart. There's a lot of humor in it. It's so carefully structured. It's one of the things I love about Greg's music, is that it sneaks up on you in the way that the the music kind of folds in on itself. There's a circular structure to the piece that I'll let Greg tell you more about when you speak to him at the Rotunda party after this. And Tom's novel is incredibly well crafted too, as it juxtaposes the political scenes with this beautiful love story. As many of you may know, there was also a very beautiful Showtime miniseries that came out in 2023. How many of you have seen the miniseries? Great. And we have some folks in the audience that actually helped greenlight that miniseries at Paramount back in the day, so we're grateful that you're here for this as well. And the thing that I always say about Fellow Travelers, having directed it all over the country, is that people never want to leave the theater. And people stay in the lobby until curfew, sharing stories. There's a lot of tears and laughter. I've seen people come out to family members in the lobby after the theater. If there's a post-show discussion, everybody wants to stay, or at least like 3/4 of the audience stays. And I also have witnessed the craft of what Greg and Gregory have done as writers, and hopefully what we've done as a creative team. I can tell you exactly when maybe a few folks in a more conservative town might shift in their seats during the very steamy love scenes. And then I see them holding the hands of their loved ones at the end and being moved by this story and identifying with these characters. And I once had somebody say to me in Phoenix, Arizona, another conservative town, and he was a, lovely, straight, white, very conservative dude, and he said, it really hurt my feelings when Hawkins turned Tim in at the end. It really hurt my feelings. And at intermission, he said, I don't know about this. This might be a little bit too racy for me, And then by the end, he had a new perspective, and we see that everywhere we go with this piece.
And it's this incredible combination of the characters that Tom created. They're so complicated, and all of them, they all have things that they're really wrestling with in their lives, and yet you have these two men who are just falling head over heels for one another and can't help themselves, and it's such a beautiful juxtaposition. And then, Greg's music is extraordinary, and specifically his string writing, it just absolutely kills me every time, because he really knows how to craft those moments where you're seeing something incredibly emotional happen on stage, and then the music is just transporting. And so for us, like it was even besides the politics of the moment. I think that in 2016, as Kevin said, this premiered 6 days after the Pulse nightclub shooting, and so that felt like the right moment for this piece. And we couldn't have anticipated, as we were, starting to dream up this national tour, that it would feel even more relevant now and even more necessary, to be seen. As like not just in the San Diego's, with the hop and gay scene, but in the Cooperstown, New York, and many other places, right? It's because this piece does have the ability to affect audiences, and not just one type of audience, right? It's such a beautiful love story that it really impacts everybody who sees it.
And just a couple of practical things to share with you. There's 9 people in the cast. And the original orchestration is 17, which we use in a lot of the smaller kind of mid-sized theaters. And then there's also the option to double the strings and increase the heft of the orchestra for the bigger houses. And I'd love to hear a little bit more from each of you about, where we know about Glimmerglass, we're going to be in your home theater. But for David and Sue, where are you programming this piece as part of your season, and why did you choose those particular spaces?
So we have a wonderful 800-seat theater called the Newmark Theater. And when I first saw this piece in Chicago, of course, I fell in love with it. And I knew that I wanted to bring it to Portland. And then the pandemic happened. And then after the pandemic, Kevin reached out. But the Newmark, I wanted intimacy. I think this is such a special, intimate piece. And so to have it in sort of this big house just felt unauthentic for our city. And so I just wanted it in a smaller space.
Our main venue is a big barn, 1965, 3,000-seat hall. And we actually thought about producing this there. We really did, because we're producing it in partnership with Diversionary Theater, sort of collaborative marketing assistance, and but we're also butting it up against Pride. And San Diego Pride is one of the biggest Pride festivals in the country, so we're producing this a weekend before Pride, and we wanted to make sure it was going to be in a place that it would attract our audience and the population of San Diego, but also visitors. So we're producing it in a smaller theater. It's still relatively large, about 1,400 seats, called the Balboa Theater, and it's downtown. It's easier to get to than our theater, to be frank. And our theater, like many urban environments now, we have a homeless, unhoused situation that there's a perception around our main theater that's just crawling with unhoused population, and it's not. But the Balboa Theater is sort of an easier place to get to. It's a beautiful historic theater. It also has a pit, and which this needs, and we don't have that many theaters in San Diego with pits, so it's sort of the perfect fit for us.
Just
To be clear, our 800-seat theater is the only 800-seat theater in all of Portland. So we have a barn, like 3,200 seats, and then we have an 800, and then we have sort of a black box for 200. And so the 800 was sort of the sweet spot for us.
And when the tour kicks off in Seattle, it will be on their main stage. So it is in a very large house. And our incredible scenic designer, Vita Zeiken, who's here, she and Kevin have worked on we're building another version of the set, which is a scaled up version, and, with some additional elements so that it really fills that house. So again, we've tried to build this tour in a way that makes it extremely flexible for, the different companies and what they're seeking to get out of this opera.
I mean, in our space, I'd programmed Kevin Putz's Elizabeth Cree, and I'd added a full string section to that as opposed to single strings, and it worked like a dream. It was just so lush and opulent, and I know this piece will do the same. I just know it will, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, should we hear a little bit more music?
Yes.
Yeah. So our next selection for you tonight, this occurs later in the opera in Act 2. It is now 1957, and Tim has enlisted in the army and served overseas to escape the pain of his relationship with Hawk. And in the meantime, Hawk has married someone named Lucy. And there's a lot that happens leading up to this, but let's just say that this scene happens in the beautiful brick house that Hawk has bought for him and Tim to live in, I suppose you would say, even though he's has a wife in Chevy Chase at this point. So this is the scene leading up to the Aria, Our Very Own Home. So once again, Joseph and Andy and Mila, thank you so much.
What else did I miss besides your wedding? Your pal Roy Cone turned 30. Did David Shine bake him a cake? Nope. Shine was home with his fiancée, poor Roy. McCarthy had a good line. The resignation of Roy Cone must bring great satisfaction to the communists and fellow travelers. Why do you care so much about Hungary? It's horrible what they're going through. It boggles my mind. The evil that Russians bring into this world every day. Do you know what they do to men like us in Russia? It boggles my mind. Easy now, are you eating at all? You've lost so much weight. I'm never hungry. did you have to tell me that, Hawk?
Every home
So I'll just share that in I think it was 2018 when I was at BNP, and we were doing open auditions as we would do every year, and it was Beth and myself and our associate producer Marielle, and Mila was playing piano, and we'd been in auditions for it was like 9 hours or something, and it was the very last audition of the day, and this young singer came in and sang this, and and he was very talented, and he just broke us. I mean, we were all in floods of tears. I think it is one of the all-time most beautiful arias I've ever heard. And every time, it still gets me, every single time. It's just extraordinary.
And we hear these arias and auditions a lot, and this opera has really become part of the canon. It's very emotional to be here with everybody and think that this piece that we created over a decade ago is having this life and this moment that is it's so important to have this work with us. And I want to thank all of our amazing supporters that are here in the audience tonight that have helped us realize this dream of making this happen, and we're so grateful to you all. And we're also making a documentary. We're hoping to make a documentary about this process of building this community outreach with the Lavender Names Project and taking this piece around the country. Just very briefly, we do have little cards that have information where you can learn more about how to get involved with the project, how to submit stories for the Lavender Names Project. We open at Seattle Opera in February 20th, and then we go directly to Portland Opera. Has there ever been a show that's gone right from Santa Fe to Portland?
First time for us.
And that's so amazing. And San Diego and Glimmerglass in the summer. Austin Opera has confirmed for next year, and we have about 7 or 8 other companies that hopefully will be announcing soon, including a return engagement here in New York. I have one last thing I'd like to share before we move to some champagne and wine, but I'm just wondering, any closing remarks from my 4 amazing colleagues here?
The power of music. I mean, I've heard this piece so many times in this aria, and it's still, as Jecca said, it pierces right through my heart. And I just hope everyone goes and sees it.
Yeah.
I mean, I programmed it because it's a really good piece. And at its heart, it does everything that opera's meant to do. It's an opera about people, and it's an opera about people who are facing stakes and trials and tribulations, and it's a bit of a tragedy at the end, but it's just a really good piece of music and a heartbreakingly beautiful story. So why would you not come and see it? Thank you for doing it.
Yes.
And thank you. We're all separate 501c3s, by
Right,
the way.
right,
You
exactly.
can support any of us. So
Or all of us, right? Yeah.
That's right.
I just
support
want
it everywhere it goes.
I want to end it just talking a little bit about Greg's music, because I first heard his music almost 20 years ago, Wolf in Skins, which was this sort of opera dance piece. And even then, I saw this really unique combination of something that sounded incredibly contemporary and modern, but also inherently ancient at the same time. And that's, I think, the magic of the way that he writes in this. And I also saw his work at Santa Fe last summer, and it's the same way of telling stories that's very unique to his work as a composer. And so that's why, and we were both wiping our eyes during Hawk's Aria, and that it just slays me every time I hear it too. So, bravo, Greg.
Any final thoughts, Jecca, before I close it out?
No, I'm looking, I'm so excited. We've been working on this, now for, almost 3 years. And we're like almost there, it's like, it's almost this amazing thing that we've been building is almost about to be out in the world. And so I'm just so thrilled, and I thank you all for being here.
Thanks for being here. I have one more little final anecdote to share with you before we reconvene in the rotunda. So I actually remember the exact moment when I realized that we had to do this 10th anniversary tour. We were doing Fellow Travelers in Norfolk, Virginia, at Virginia Opera. Andy and Joseph were both there with me. And it was the first time that I had directed Fellow Travelers since the pandemic. And it was actually kind of the first show where we were really back. And so this was in 2023. And when Fellow Travelers is a success in New York and Chicago and our big metropolitan cultural cities, it's exciting. But when we do it in these smaller markets and these more conservative towns, Norfolk, Virginia is a military town, and Virginia was taking a big risk doing this opera. And we had a contingent from NATO that came to our dress rehearsal, and I talked to them before the show. And then on opening night, this woman ran across the lobby and she was crying, and she said, "Kevin, can I give you a hug?" And I said, of course you can. And she said, you may remember that I was at the dress rehearsal, and I have to tell you, I was here with my husband, and my daughter is trans, and my husband and my daughter have not been speaking for 2 years. And after the dress rehearsal, he called her back up, and she has moved back into the house, and they haven't stopped talking for 2 days. And he has changed his mind, and you have saved my family. And I just want to thank you. And how did you do it? And, when you have music and a libretto like this, based on such an extraordinary story that Tom Mallon gifted us, we see this affect people and change hearts and minds everywhere we go. And that's why we're here. So that was the moment that I thought, okay, 10th anniversary, let's take this baby on the road all across America. So thanks, everybody.